The following program is funded in part by Nebraskans for Public Television.
Hello and welcome to Omaha Weekly. I'm James Langdon. This week from March 20th through the 26th is Nebraska Telecommunications Week, as declared by Governor Kay Orr, in honor of Nebraska's extensive private and public telecommunications achievements. Today on Omaha Weekly, we'll talk with people in the Omaha area who work with telecommunications on a daily basis. We'll take a look at the roots of telecommunication, how they have become a part of most everyone's daily lives, and what we can expect in the future of telecommunications technology. Communications between distant parties in the Omaha area were first accomplished by the Oto and Omaha Indian tribes, who used hand signals while on horseback, as well as smoke signals and drum messages. The introduction of technology into the communications of the Midwest is directly related to the establishment of the railway system. Jim Merrick, Assistant Vice President of Communication Systems with the Union Pacific, tells us how these early routes have grown into a vast network of communications technology.
Jim, it all began in the late 1860s or the early 1860s with Abraham Lincoln creating the Pacific Rail Act, and that created the Union Pacific Railroad and Telegraph Company, and actually the telegraph preceded the railroad. And we've been pioneering in almost every technology in communications ever since. We've gone from telegraph to wireline carriers to microwave systems to satellite, and most recently, Jim, to fiber optics. And today we're using almost all of those technologies in different ways to run the railroad and the various companies that Union Pacific works with.
How is the Union Pacific using communication technology today?
Well, we use it in 4 different ways. Of course, like everyone, voice communications is a very important part of running a railroad. And we have about 20 to 30,000 telephones, depending on how you want to count out there. The second area that we started in the late 1950s was the data area. And data is about, a fourth of our total communications, and we have 4 large data centers. We're also a very, very large radio user. In fact, we have about 20,000 radios out there, and we've got something like over 1,000 radio stations stretching anywhere from New Orleans to Seattle, and we have a mobile telephone system where you can talk anywhere within about a 60 miles radius of the railroad over that area. Probably the least known is what we call signal systems, which are actually used for controlling the movement of trains. And so that's the one that we're consolidating here in Omaha, Nebraska, that you read some about in the recent news.
The Union Pacific is but one of the heavy users of communications technology in Omaha. Northwestern Bell and Mutual of Omaha are examples of other companies with massive computer systems, extensive phone networks, satellite capabilities, and high-tech television production facilities. But the most complex communication system in the area is at the Strategic Air Command headquarters. Colonel Mark Smith tells us the importance of communications to SAC.
How does the Strategic Air Command use the various aspects of telecommunications to accomplish the SAC mission?
Let me first explain how important we think communications and computer systems are in SAC by quoting one of our earliest commanders-in-chief of SAC, General Curtis LeMay, when he said that the president can make you a general, but only communications can make you a commander. So we see communications playing a very vital role in helping us, just as the central nervous system helps the body to do its function. We need computer systems in order to analyze intelligence information, to help us target weapon systems, to help us assess the environment around us, to help us properly know what to do with a lot of warning information coming in and what the status of our forces are. Man is always in that loop, but computers provide a very valuable executive decision aid to the commander. Communication systems, on the other hand, are vital to keep us constantly in touch with our forces. We have facilities all around the world, 26 different locations where SAC facilities and forces are located, and we need to be in constant communication with them. We use a variety of media. In fact, we have over a dozen ways that we could contact our missile, bomber, tanker, or reconnaissance forces scattered throughout the globe. We need that variety in order to counter vulnerabilities or threats to the various media and methods of communications. We use 2 different satellite systems, a number of radio systems, and a whole series of ground-based and leased landline networks. So we see communications playing a very vital role in our being able to control our nuclear forces throughout the globe. Each type of system is vulnerable to some sort of disruption, whether jamming situations or actual sabotage. So each method can be strengthened by having some alternate means.
Now, one of those systems are the dedicated ground lines that you use for communications?
That's right. Besides the leased commercial facilities that we share with the public, we also have a number of dedicated systems. Only we use those, and they're dedicated strictly to just the command and control of our nuclear forces, to allow us the privacy and to ensure that the adversary is not listening in on our plans.
What advancements in technology will be important to SAC?
We're going through some drastic cut-downs now in our budget accounts as well as our manpower, and we need facilities that need less of a human maintenance factor involved. So we'd like to see more reliable hardware systems. We'd like to see improved secure communications facilities where we know we have private communications that the adversary cannot monitor. We're hoping that new technology will allow us to buy systems cheaper and to operate and maintain them for less cost as well.
Large corporations and the military are stretching the limits of technology and their procurement budgets to keep pace with information analysis and exchange, while the average consumer is faced with choosing their long-distance phone company and deciding which television program to watch. Radio and television combine communications with entertainment. For many years, television entertainment has been dominated by the local broadcast channels, but the technology of television programming delivery systems has changed, and with it has changed the very nature of television viewing. Mike Kohler of Cox Cable Omaha talks about the technology of cable television.
Could you explain how Cox Cable incorporates the various aspects of telecommunications to deliver entertainment programs to Omahans?
Well, we, like many modern businesses, are totally computer-driven. All of our billing, customer service functions are driven by the central computer, but so is our method of delivering programming to the households. We have a pretty sophisticated head-end setup where our satellite dishes receive signals from satellite, and we are able to scramble pictures at the head end, and our computer system then governs the flow of signals out to the customer homes. And by the programming that our customer service representatives do, inputting information, telling what levels of service the various customer homes subscribe to, that dictates what signals flow to those homes. If you've ordered HBO from us, then our computer tells the converter box in your home that you are entitled to get that service, and therefore descrambles the signal and sends it to you. That technology, scrambling technology, is pretty commonplace now. When we first came to Omaha, it was pretty state-of-the-art, cutting-edge technology. We, at the time of our construction phase here in Omaha, were one of the largest fully addressable systems in the Midwest, and there was a lot of focus, a lot of attention on us in the various trade publications. But now what was very progressive technology has become really rather commonplace. A lot of much smaller systems are now fully addressable.
Now, you're also involved in some local production, correct?
We are. We do a lot of stuff that can be perceived as special interest or lighter sort of feature programming.
While Cox Cable Omaha delivers entertainment received from satellites, another Omaha Earth station receives a totally different type of information. We spoke to Lee Lubers of SCOLA about how they receive programming and news programs from throughout the world and redistribute them. What is SCOLA?
SCOLA is a bunch of schools that decided we had to get television from countries that are on the other sides of the Earth. And the only way we can get the programming from the satellites that serves the other side of the Earth is to install stations at critical spots around the world, have them right now tape them for us, and send them back to Omaha, Nebraska. And in Omaha, Nebraska, we put them up on an uplink transmitter to satellite and distribute the live news or near live news programs from the important countries on the other sides of the Earth, distribution to all the schools, colleges, universities that participate in the distribution. Right from here, we are able to receive, with our reception antennas, live programming from Mexico, Russia, and from Canada, both English-speaking and French-speaking. And that's one reason why we have so many antennas. We do like to receive absolutely everything off of any satellite that is, by any stretch of the imagination, of any educational use.
How was SCOLA started?
Very soon we realized that there were a lot of things on satellites that education couldn't live without. We started looking at things on satellites with a homemade antenna in August of 1981, and we gradually discovered new things. We gradually set up a campus cable system. By fall of 1982, we had about 25 channels, bringing down things like the French from Canada, Mexico City live, Russia live through a tracking system, and the other obvious educational networks that are available, like the Learning Channel. Other schools let it be known that we were the only ones doing that kind of thing in the whole United States and probably in the world, at least to that extent. And we were forced by popular demand to have a conference in May, the first one of 1983. And even though the notices went out a little late, why 35 representatives from the biggest and most prestigious universities in the country came directly, saw and were really amazed at how much was available via satellite of indisputable educational need, and immediately learning, as we had experts to show them, what satellites could do around the world, absolutely insisted that we set up some kind of system to import live the news programs from the other important countries on the other sides of the Earth, bring it here, retransmit it to a domestic satellite, and distribute it to all the schools in the United States.
Did you have problems dealing with the different television systems from throughout the world, such as PAL and CCAM?
The tapes that come from our station in England, Sri Lanka, Jerusalem, Papua New Guinea, Central Florida, practically all of those tapes have to be converted because they're either in the PAL or CCAM system and have to be converted to the American NTSC system.
You mentioned Sri Lanka. Does this bring you in contact with Arthur C. Clarke?
Oh, indeed, yeah. Arthur, right from the start, agreed to be a supporter and a consultant and an advisor for this project. And even after he agreed to that, I went to Sri Lanka and worked with him and helped set up an antenna right on the deck outside his bedroom, and a couple of big antennas at the university, which are now serving as a station for SCOLA. Whenever we want to impress someone with his support, why, he'll make a very nice statement over the telephone from Sri Lanka, and we use it in our promotion.
Scola has developed their own technology when necessary, such as the Soviet satellite tracking system, which they market to other universities, though Lubers has hopes for developments in technology to allow for smaller satellite dishes and the dissemination of more live, worldwide newscasts in place of the tape-delayed coverage they often give now. Other applications of telecommunications in education can be seen at the University of Nebraska Medical Center, where Van Johnson works with biomedical communications.
We use all of the current technology, including fiber optics, for our television operations here. We have a closed-circuit studio that we use for clinical and teaching lecture kinds of television. We also have several systems that feed off campus into classrooms that are remotely located, such as the College of Nursing has 2 campuses, one here and one in Lincoln. We provide the television and teaching assistance via television to the teaching of the physical therapy students, the nursing students, lab technology students, and many hours of clinical work are accomplished in that particular fashion. We're also tied into the Omaha VA hospital with our own microwave system, which allows us then to switch through their system to the VA in Lincoln and also the VA hospital in Grand Island. That again also allows us to connect into our College of Dentistry, which happens to be in Lincoln. In the teaching institution, I think a extra benefit for the patient that the numbers of persons in a operating room are controlled. So videotaping surgical procedures allows the sterile environment to be maintained in the OR, and also then in post viewing the video then can be assembled to show particular techniques that the physician or surgeon wishes to point out. We also have a microscope equipped with a color camera. Another system that we're dealing with involves the use of video disc. It's an interactive computer-controlled system that's been developed by one of our pathologists, whereby a file of clinical pathology slides are controlled by a medical student at the keyboard who can address the entire memory system in the disc and call up any particular pathological slide that they wish to examine and study. The Medical Center was one of the early pioneers in the use of television in education. Telecommunications has been one of our prime interests. Back in 1956, the first telecommunications lecture for education in the country started here in Omaha at the Nebraska Psychiatric Institute under Dr. Cecil Whitson. Also in 1964, the first two-way television system in the country also started here on this campus, and that was again between NPI, the Nebraska Psychiatric Institute, and the Norfolk State Hospital.
Television serving education, a concept which has led to the formation of CASER. Howard Lowe is the general manager of CASER and University Television at the University of Nebraska at Omaha.
CASER is the Consortium of Associated Schools and Educational Resources. It's a nonprofit community corporation that programs on 4 channels of the Cox cable system, channels 13, 17, 18, and 19. And on those channels, the members provide a variety of services. On channel 13, we provide promotional materials about the member organizations. On channel 17, we provide in-school programming for use kindergarten through high school. Channel 18 is used for telecourses for credit, and channel 19 is used for adult and continuing education courses. I think that the Educational Consortium has a very bright future. It is a future that will see the organization growing. There is increased use of telecommunications to augment the curriculum in the schools, both from kindergarten through high school and also at the post-secondary level, where more junior colleges, community colleges, and universities are using telecommunications to offer courses to both the traditional and non-traditional student. And I think that the educational consortium will be growing and will be seeking partnerships with local businesses to provide for these services throughout the community.
The advancing technology of communications is important to higher education, but it is also finding its way into other levels of education. At AT&T, a solution has been developed to expand the capabilities of educators across the state. Josie Maloney and Glenn Fox of AT&T tell us about their system.
We talked to many educators, first of all, to find out exactly what they were looking for and how they felt technology could be used to enhance their delivery process. They were using computers, they were using videos, but they were using them on a standalone basis. So what we did after talking to them is we found out that we could go ahead and put the two together. We could put the computers and the video together and give them a tool to use to develop their own instruction. So what they could then do is develop their own courseware. That would be great, except for we need some kind of infrastructure developed. So what we decided to do is put together an electronic library at the Department of Education in Lincoln and have it based right there. Then we would put model informational classrooms in at Chadron State College and Peru State College, and perhaps maybe another one at a school district, a K through 12 like Sutherland or maybe a Millard School District. We would have teachers in all of those areas then developing courseware. The courseware then would go by the Department of Education. They would check it to see if it's good stuff. If it's good stuff and it's certifiable, what it would do then is be housed on the electronic library in Lincoln. And then anybody that had the equipment throughout Nebraska would be able to access it and use it.
What we have here are a few of the components that we use in what we call a distance learning environment for education. These are some tools that instructors can use to teach courses over a distance over just plain telephone service. What we have in the center is a modem that we connect to a telephone line, just a regular telephone line. We have a monitor for video that we can display images that are captured in a digital storage device, in this case a computer. And we have a tablet in front of me that we can control and manipulate all of those various screens. I can control those from here as I will demonstrate, and in a distance learning course, an instructor on the other end can pull up the same information that I'm seeing here and can do the very same things that I can do. As an example, I pull up a screen of information, and at this point I can talk about the biology piece that happens to be developed for this course, and I can illustrate to the students on the other end by selecting a write function, drawing or annotating around a portion of the image. I can change colors and graphically depict another area. If I want to get a little closer to that image, all I have to do is press a zoom, and I can zoom in at various levels and even pan across the image. I can pull up a second image or an additional image. In this case, we're looking at video pictures that came out of an electron microscope that were captured into the system through what we call a target board, and the input to that system can come from almost any video source, be it a VCR, video laser disc, any sort of composite or RGB source. And the whole purpose of this is for the instructor in a distance to be able to pull these images up, discuss them with students at the remote end, and also have those students interact back and forth in a fashion on voice, both communicating by voice and telephone, and also by communicating with the write function that I had described previously.
One teacher can be linked with multiple students in different locations with this system. The keyboard is used for many functions, such as lesson planning. Northwestern Bell's Jim Brader tells us how advances in telephone technology will make this and other systems even more functional.
I think the new technology is already here, and it's available to some, and I think we call it fiber optics. The light wave, the transmission of telephone and data, voice and data, over light wave instead of over copper wires or transmitted as radio waves. This has the potential for carrying innumerable conversations. I think the ultimate is forecast to be that all the telephone conversations in the country could be carried on one light wave. I think the fiber loop we call it the fiber loop from our switching offices will reach into everyone's home. This will offer them unbelievable opportunities in telecommunications, video, access to information services, using a computer at the same time, retrieving information, still using your telephone for what it was originally designed for, which is voice communications, happening simultaneously over the fiber loops. This is a big investment, though. It's going to take a lot of money to accomplish this, and it's going to take some time. But that's where we'll be, and I think maybe 20, 25 years from now, it'll just be commonplace.
What do you hear from the various consumers of communications technology as far as their needs?
Most people need the same thing: quality service and competitive prices. We can provide unbelievable service, but the cost would be prohibitive. So the idea is to marry those two, where you can get top quality service at competitive prices, and that's their concern.
The interface between the consumer and the technology is the business of Jim Beatty of National Consulting Systems.
NCS is a telecommunication consulting and management firm, and our particular role is this: we work with business and industry in helping them to select and manage their telecommunication systems. Now, that includes assistance in the selection of their telephone equipment, their data communications equipment, long-distance network systems, and the combination, of course, of all of those components. It's a very complex telecommunication world, so to speak, and we find that many businesses need assistance in this area, either on a one-time project basis or on an ongoing management basis, and we try to fill those roles for them.
It would seem to say a lot about the state of the technology of communications itself, the fact that you exist, considering that in the old days your telecommunication system was a phone on the desk.
Absolutely. We are probably impacted most since the AT&T divestiture in '84. Prior to that, you could call the telephone company, and whatever your request was, they could handle it. They could come out and install or maintain or do whatever it is you wanted to have done. Well, by law, there's only certain things that they can do anymore. A portion of that business had to be divested, as the name would imply, in a legal sense, and so companies such as NCS had to come into being, or came into being, to try to fill that niche and that void. There are several options that exist for business, and unless they are very astute or very skilled in telecommunications, they're generally in a state of confusion. So we exist because of technology. The marketplace has dictated that more and more vendors be allowed in the marketplace, and that's good, but it does get confusing.
You're involved in some way with the telecommunications seminar down in Lincoln?
March 22nd is the 25th year celebration for Nebraska Public Television. As part of that celebration, the Public Television Committee, decided to really have a salute to telecommunication on a statewide basis. So as a part of that, we have exhibits at the Cornhusker Hotel that will be running all day. We have seminars in the afternoon on various telecommunication-related topics. And of course, we have a luncheon and an evening speaker. Governor Orr will be present to say a few words. But Nebraska has a tremendous telecommunication heritage, and we really want to let the rest of the world, and especially, of course, right here in Nebraska, let Nebraskans know that and see that. And we are expecting upwards of 400 people at this event.
Thank you for joining us for this special program. Please join us again next week when Jackie Sailors hosts an Omaha Weekly magazine program. If you have any comments or questions, write us at Omaha Weekly, care of University Television, UNO, Omaha, Nebraska 68182, or call 554-2516. This is James Langdon with Omaha Weekly.